we are once again back in the TKG pod. This is another week, another episode. We actually almost were not going to do this episode. And Jerry over here was like, we got to do it. We got to make more content. And
cooler heads prevailed.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was.
Yeah. And why was it? Why do we got to do it?
Because we got to keep going. We got to, we have the momentum. You just got to go with it. And the same applies in business. So that's where I was on the clock looking at it, saw the text and was like, yep, we're making it happen. So,
well, the thing is, we're trying to put together this, the Kronos group, our peer-to-peer group. There is to anybody who hasn't ever put a business together, particularly one that is largely digital, it's a huge amount of work, mostly on Matt's side. The amount of work will transfer over more to Steve's side, sales and customer service, and then ultimately to me doing the work. Right now, Steve-O's kind of in learning mode. I've got to turn out inordinate amount of product for Matt so that he can put it out, and he's got to build the website. He's got to get all the socials together. He's got to get just across the board. There's a laundry list of stuff that has to get done. And so the problem is you're hurrying, but you're not making any money. There's no customers coming on. There's none of that. And so you got to really keep your head down. If you're going to build anything, this is the hardest time. So right now is the hardest time to build a business and to put it together, because it's just all work and there's no benefit to it. So I know from history, particularly when it comes to podcasts, that and making videos, is if the videos don't get turned out by the editor, in this case Matt, then I stop making them. And then Matt puts them all out, and then there's no videos. And then he doesn't have any product to work on. He goes, what are you doing? I was like, well, the product hasn't come out for a week. And you lose that momentum. The same is true in business. If you go to the gym every day, right, pretty soon, 4 or 5 days a week, that's just momentum. And then you're just like, I didn't know life before I didn't go to the gym. And so when we said we weren't going to do the podcast, just from my own 250 podcasts that I've done, I know that we did one last week. Let's do one this week. Let's get one done the next week. And you just got to stay on. Even if there's only 2 of us here, or even 1 of us, right? You want to continue to make it happen, and in that context for our peer-to-peer group, the Kronos group, and also for this podcast. So that's where that comes from. I'm just trying to keep this ball rolling, and I know really for me more than anybody, because I will start looking, squirrel, and I'll look another direction, and a week will go by, and nothing happened.
Steve, you got any input there?
Yeah, you got to start. You got to start. You're never going to be all the way ready to do it. So definitely jump in, even though it can seem a little discombobulated. Just kind of, it's one of those things where you got to build the plane as you're flying it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And even with everything that I just said, and with all of my experience, it's such a good example for entrepreneurs, is when Matt said, or Steve-O told me last night, I didn't see your email, Matt, that we were canceling it because you thought I had another podcast scheduled. And so Steve said it's scheduled or it's canceled. And I was like, oh, okay. And then this morning I was thinking about it. I was at the gym in the pool, and you texted me, Matt, or I texted you about something, whatever it was. And you were like, hey, it's canceled. And I was like, wait. No, that doesn't work. Or maybe I texted you because it dawned on me, we got to do a podcast. And so, so even in my head, I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, God, I know what okay means. Another week will go by.
Yeah. And honestly, it's a good thing to bring up, because there's so many people that are thinking when they're building a business that they have to have all their shit together, when in reality, no one does.
No, right.
And that's
right.
the more and more I have conversations with people that are business owners or started a product and a business, they're figuring it out as they go. No one actually has there's no playbook that says this is how you do business and how you can make super fast money and a lot of it in this amount of time.
Right.
No. So
right. The what is behind that is people have a perspective on entrepreneurs and business owners, particularly ones that have had some success. They're driving a little bit nicer car. They got a little bit bigger house. The kids might be going to private school. And there's this idea that those guys did all of this planning, and they're just better at strategizing, and they're better at scheduling, and they're better at planning than I am. And it's 180 degrees the opposite. And you're right about saying that, Matt. I don't know the number of people who will strategize and plan and wait well past the point that they could be effective because it wasn't quite right yet. What they don't know is it's never right. It's never right because you don't know how hard you will work until you're hungry. Okay. So you can say I always say about going to the gym. Jerry, I can't go to the gym. I'm working 10 hours a day, this, that, the other reason. And I say, okay, if I put a gun to your mother's head and I held it there, and if you don't go to the gym and work out hard every single day for a year, every day, 365 days, I'm going to pull the trigger. Could you find the time to go to the gym and work out hard 365 days in a row? And the answer is clearly yes. That's what I mean. So if you don't know, if you're not hungry enough, it's hard to know. If you haven't burnt the ships, it's hard to know exactly what you're capable of doing. So you work inside of your current environment, which is not an environment that is too challenging, or we try to limit that challenge. So we all want the easy way. We all want to go start a business the easy way. The problem is there is no easy way. And I think guys like Dave Ramsey right here in our hometown down here, Steve, makes it sound to people like you need to have this, and then you want to have 6 months of that, and then you want to have your rents paid, and you want to have all your deals and enough money to last and all that. And nope, not if you're going to be an entrepreneur. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, it is butt in the wind. Good luck. Get ready for it because it's about to get ugly. And that's exactly right. And it's survival of the fittest. It absolutely is. Now, in a good way, people don't know this, so they try to plan until it'll never happen because you cannot plan for every eventuality. And you'll mindlessly just continue to try to dig in until you get just everything right. Meanwhile, you're just watching people go right past you and get the work you would have gotten. They're just outworking you. And that's the reality to be an entrepreneur is you just got to outwork everybody. Contrary to what the freaking internet says on every single Instagram and every single young influencer, I use that word loosely, telling people how to operate businesses out in the real world.
Well, I mean, to their credit, they probably read a book and watched a couple videos. So
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's because that's what sells. Something easy sells. I always said if I called you Matt. If I called you Matt and I said, "Hey Matt, I got this program on starting a business. Now, here's what the program's going to say, right? I want you to pay me for it, and it's going to explain how 19, 20-hour days. It's going to explain how you're not going to see your family for weeks, months at a time. It's going to explain how the stress is going to be more than anything. I can't describe it to you because it's beyond what you can comprehend having never done it before. It's going to describe the risk that you have to take to get that business together and to finance it and to put it out there. It's going to discuss how brutal it's going to be on you and the wife and the family for that, and how you're going to have to be strong beyond anything you can comprehend, not only for yourself, but for them, and not only for yourself and them, but also for all of your employees who are constantly going to be watching you. The phone's going to ring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and if you don't answer it, they will call someone else. Therefore, your son doesn't eat. Right. All of these if I sold you something like that, Matt, would you buy that? No, you wouldn't. But if I told you how to do all of, if I told you how to do all of that, and it only takes 10 minutes a week, and you're going to make $1 million a month, would you buy that from me? Right. That's what you're being sold on the internet, and the reality is what I just described. The one that I would sell.
Yeah. Well, that's like what I deal with when I was doing the supplement and health coaching sales. They get in there because this pill's going to help them lose 30 pounds this next month. They're 80 pounds overweight. So you describe nutrition, how you can do it sustainably long term. No, I'm just going to take the pills. So you got this pill, this supplement. Okay, so, my logic is so you didn't take the pill, so that's how you got 80 pounds overweight. So, yeah, that's the magic bullet. So that's exactly what sells, though. It's the easiest possible way to get to the goal you want. And people, unfortunately, spend a lot of money trying to, and if it's not this one, oh, I was on the wrong pill. I should have had this pill instead. And they'll bounce around to that instead of, and never get anywhere. They never get anywhere. There's never one time they come back or circle back around or maybe finally get back into something to create the success that they're looking for. The easy way never worked for them.
Right.
I don't have one story I can tell you where, yep, it worked.
Yep.
without putting in the work like you were talking about on the side of a business, putting it in.
And that's the problem with like
this.
Ozempic and those other ones, is because you get to eat half as much junk food, but the second you come off of it, you go back to eating junk food. You never learn anything. You put any effort into it. You're just not hungry, right? So you don't eat, but you only eat half as much pizza. And to your point, Steve-O, you never learn the lessons. You never develop the habits. You never get the discipline that you need to be healthy. Right.
It's the habits, just like in business. There's certain habits you're going to have to do. You're going to have to say no to the pizza, the ice cream and stuff. Just like in business, you're going to have to say no to, getting off at 5 o'clock and sitting and watching TV all evening and chilling out and hanging out on the weekends. You're going to have to say no to that stuff, just like you do for the body. You're going to have to do for the business.
Right. I agree. What do we got on the docket, Matt? I was going to say, actually, I got something. That I got a question for you guys, because I got asked a question earlier in the podcast, or on an earlier podcast that I was on today. And I was wondering what you guys thought the answer. Both these guys are my nephew and my brother-in-law, so I've known them forever. They know me very well. And I thought I'd flip the question and I would ask you guys. I got asked, this is right along what we're talking about. How do you balance the chaos of being in the trenches, payroll, stress, growth, employees, with family, health, and staying sane? So not unlike what I just tried to sell to Matt, was a question I got asked earlier. So Matt, I'll ask you first. How do you think that's possible?
It's really comes down to a mindset of how bad do you want it? How brutal of a situation that you are currently in, that there is no other option. And like you said earlier in the podcast last week, when you're out and you're hunting and your family and your life depends on what you have to do, and you don't do it, well, you have to keep going and doing it. You're not just going to sit there and be like, one day, oh, I put in a lot of work, no results. All right, cool. I'll start on something new tomorrow. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. And it's a absurd amount of time and repetition in the boring, in the horrible work that you don't want to do, like the headache work, that you build this tolerance. And I think that's where a lot of business owners don't have a high pain tolerance, and defining pain and tolerance is actually showing your growth.
You have a unique insight into this also. Talk about when you came to live with me.
Oh, that was a story. So let's see, context. When I went to live with Jerry out in Portland, it had to be 8 years ago.
Just a second. Let's just make sure we do this disclaimer. I didn't kick him out of the house. This was voluntary.
Yeah, he did.
So anything that he experienced, he asked for.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
I was a willing participant. So, but yeah, moving out there to work with Jerry, at this point in my life, I haven't really seen what work was. It was this idea that I saw on social media of, hey, you can put in the 4-hour work week and do this kind of materials for work, and you can make this kind of money and live this kind of lifestyle. And then when I moved out there, it was a hard wake-up call. When one of the first mornings, I remember waking up at like 5:36, and we were out the door, and we were going through that whole day. We went to the gym, left the gym, went straight to the work, staying at work until about 6:30. And I get home, and I remember this feeling of sitting in the chair after we had dinner and everything. And it's like 8 o'clock right now. And I'm like, all right, I got about a few hours before I probably need to go to bed.
Dude, I think your timing is messed up. I don't know that we ever got home before 7:30 or 8.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think we were coming home at 6:30. Kath had been like, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah, no, it was, we're getting out of work about 6:37, then going and having dinner. And then by the time we get home, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock. And that's when I was sitting there, and that was a long day. And I remember being like, okay, that was good. And then I wake up and it's the same thing. Then the next day, the same thing. Then the next day, the same thing. And you get to a point where you almost, like, for the first week, I was like, is this a boot camp? Like, is this just like for only an experienced amount of time, like a 2-3 week thing? And then if I survive that, then I've got my like Medal of Honor or my achievement. And it's like, no. And it was just that way every day throughout that full year that I was just living with you. And I remember now moving forward, that's just how I live life now. And it was one of those moments where I had to be in it and then not be in it temporarily, but be in it consistently and keep doing it no matter what, because this is what we have to do, to then realize, oh, this is how building a business, this is how building a career or any success to any amount within business or your own personal career is going to happen compared to the rest of the population out there.
And I don't think that there is any way that I could have you tell me, I don't want to put those words in your mouth. If somebody described that to you, this is what we're going to be doing, right? Or this is what an average entrepreneur will do. This is what his day looks like. Would you have believed that? Or what would you have thought?
I would have thought there was a little bit more glitz and glamour of a business owner. Like, oh, they're going in these meetings, they're talking about this, they're figuring out the business. And it was all the social pretty work where it's like social media makes it look like, oh, if you're a CEO or exec, you're living large. You don't have any worries. Like the only worries you have is just making sure that the work gets done and you keep growing year or quarter over quarter annually in revenue. And you're like, that's it. But there's so many other aspects of a business, especially the solopreneur, which is something that like a lot of people see as, oh, wow, I'm building a business, but you're really just building a product and then selling it. But when you have employees, when you have a team, when you have, in your case, Jerry, drivers and contractors and working with them, there's so much more at play. And that's when I kind of opened my eyes in that moment to see how a business actually operates and continues to operate. And at the end of the day, and I'll remember this for the rest of my life, and it's something I live by, it's my fault. And I think that was something I've never seen from a CEO or owner or manager or executive, anything, was that kind of idea and that kind of philosophy to live by. And whether you're an employee or you're senior level or you're the founder, living that lifestyle of it's my fault will get you a lot farther than anyone else.
Yeah. Now, I agree. Yes, and it's the story never told. It's the secret sauce. It's the superpower. Having said that, before I ask Steve the same question, dude, how jacked were you?
Oh,
do you remember how thick you were?
Those were the days, and that's where when
dude, you had think muscle it's also on top of muscle.
Yeah, and it really comes back to like, because I know, Jerry, your superpower is being able to just get in it and do it, and you have that self-motivation. Like it's just ingrained, it's wired into your DNA. And for me, it was being able to work out with you, and then it became a competition of, oh, well, he's not going to be more fit than I am. But then as soon as I get back to myself and I get back to my ways and I'm like working on this stuff, then my prioritization of health starts to slip because I'm like, oh, I got to do these things because I need to get this done in order for me to do my part of the business. But I need that competitive edge. And so when you brought up like the social media content and challenging both Steve and I was excited because I'm like, cool. I need a good challenge. That's what I like competing.
Yeah. It's like having somebody meet you at the gym. If they ain't going to meet you, chances are you're going back to sleep. All right, Steve-O, so the same question. How do you balance the chaos of being in the trenches, payroll, stress, growth, employees with family, health, and staying sane? It's a different question for you, though, Steve. You look at this in a different perspective, I think, because you've been through the ringer. I mean, homeboy's had 4 kids, young, working your tail off, all of those expectations hanging over the top of you, mama at home, and all of that. So it'll be a very different perspective than Matt's got, I would guess.
Yeah. So you're talking about the work-life balance.
Yeah, just how do you stress? I mean, I think your life when you were younger with the kids, not a lot of money, struggling to pay the bills, just every day is, out trying to make for your family is not unlike the life of an entrepreneur, only without, I mean, in some cases you have the kids, but how do you deal with all of the stuff that life throws at you? And I think that struggling I always say that my life as a child was so difficult that no matter what business throws at me, I've already seen it, right? I've already been through it. And when you have kids involved in your case and you're taking care of them and you're working, 15-hour days and driving 8 billion miles and working as much as you can to make sure and cleaning gravestones and all the stuff you guys did on the side and all of that. I mean, that's literally what being an entrepreneur is, only we don't view it that way when we have kids, because their kids are the reason to live. And so it's like hours for the kids. If I didn't have the kids, I don't know if I would have done it or not.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of work-life balance is it's really for the people that work a 9-to-5 job, because that's the only way you're going to have a true work-life balance. I think what you end up having, and this is something I've heard recently, and it was on my mind because it really helped clarify it. You have seasons of focus. Like Matt came out and worked for you when he did, but he didn't see when you were really starting the business. Not only were you doing it, but the beginning days as much. Because I don't think when he came out,
Matt never saw me work hard. Matt never saw me work hard.
The ref in the basketball games on the weekends and stuff. So I think that's where it's kind of a misnomer. People think about work-life balance. That's really for the 9-to-5, because you're set. 5 o'clock, you knock off work, you go home, you can do whatever you want with your time. But in entrepreneurship, you have more like seasons. There's going to be a time in the winter the farmer doesn't have a lot to do, but in spring, you aren't going to see them. And you've got the harvest time in the fall. So I think there's more like there's times where you have like, this much focus where you're really in there. And then you have like this much balance. And in your early days, you're going to have this much focus and you carve a little balance out. But then as you go along, as you build the business, then you're going to have it. But I think people need to come into this and not be discouraged if they're in the early stages of it. Like, I don't have a lot of balance. That's done a lot to hurt people, because they take a 9-to-5 mentality and try to go into entrepreneurship. And a lot of small business owners probably did start out some 9-to-5 and then, hey, I got an idea how I can do this on my own. And what they miss is that time where you have a lot of focus. And when you were building your business in the beginning, you had a lot of focus, and it's big periods of time. And then you create a little bit of balance, which would have been, 8:30 to 9:30 when you put the kids to bed. You spent that time with them. And you have a big amount of focus. But then as you go along and you get the thing rolling, then you can create more times of what you would perceive as balance. But I think people have this percentage in their mind that they think, well, I want 60% work and 40%. And that's not the life of an entrepreneur. I mean, you just need to kind of reshift your perspective on what it even looks like. And I think when people are trying to take that 9-to-5 mentality into entrepreneurship, or even if they're not, they hear it from all the other people they know that have that 9-to-5. And say, you're focused, you're too focused on money. I think as you get, this is off topic a little bit, I think as you get wealthy, you're actually less focused on money. I think poor people are nothing but focused on money, because that's the biggest thing to them.
I was never happier than when I paid $25 on a $125 electric bill. So I was running a multi-million-dollar company. I was refereeing basketball 5-6 nights a week. And I was paying $25 on the $125 electric bill so that it didn't get shut off with kids. But I didn't realize it till later, obviously, when I made it and had some success, that I don't know that I was ever. Life is so simple then. Your concerns are right out in front of you. There's nothing you don't see coming. It's just right. It's just because you're living week to week, month to month. I'm not saying that we shouldn't all try to get out of that. I'm just saying that the reality is money doesn't make you happy. If I could, we would take an order on the weekend and they would pay us cash, a COD order, right? And there was just no money, but they pay a COD, and I was like, no way. And we would get a pizza, a bake it yourself pizza. And the kids, all three of my kids were little by this point, would run over to their grandparents because probably grandpa went and did the order for me, had the cash in hand, went and got the pizzas, some Mountain Dews, and away we go. I don't know. It's probably one of the best meals I've ever eaten, to your point, Steve. But that's simple. And we got $30 for a COD, and we spent it on buying Chinese food, which we would never buy because we didn't have money for. And those were the greatest meals I've ever eaten. No amount of money, no matter how special the restaurant or how expensive the food was that I would pay for, ever comes anywhere near as good as that pizza or that Chinese food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different kind of thought process that people in today's society would almost kind of laugh at, because it's so glamorized to be successful, to have money, to have status, to be a influencer or have influence within business world. And some of your best stories that I've at least heard have always been when they started and in the middle. And I think that's a very interesting perspective, because so many people focus on the beginning of the business and rooting you on. And then once you actually make it successful in the business, then they're either against you or for you, depending on their perspective of your success. But
Right.
No one pays attention to the middle. And the middle is like the most gruesome part, but has the most experience, story, and just overall value.
There's in that, if somebody thinks they have an entrepreneurial bug, you can test that out all day on your 9-to-5 job. I've had a lot of 9-to-5 jobs. I've never worked 9 to 5 in my life. So I taught my kids, if they ask you to do something at work, your answer is always yes. Well, Dad, what if they don't tell? Yes. You just say yes. If your phone rings and it's the boss and somebody's not coming in and you're about to go to a movie, but he needs you to come in, you say yes. The reality is that you're in the morning, can I get overtime? You need me to stay late? I need to cover a shift. I'm doing the work of 2 people because the homeboy keeps calling in sick. And you just say yes. And you don't complain and you don't cry and you just go out and do it. We can test whether or not you have the mettle for being an entrepreneur. Doesn't mean you're going to be guaranteed anything, but if you have the mettle based on your 9-to-5 job. And that's why I always cranked every 9-to-5 job I ever had, is because I'm just here to work. Where's the work? And when my one job's done, is there more work? What else can I do? And you just say yes. And that was in my world. So I excelled doing that in my world. In the world today, I say all the time, after 10,000 employees, all you have to do to be special, to be above average, to be extraordinary, is just be average. That's it in the world today. That is the litmus test. That is the value that we look for. Do you show up every day? Because there's so many that don't. So that window has come down to where to be extraordinary, you had to be me as a kid. Now to be extraordinary, just show up every day. Well, imagine if not only do you show up every day, but you go and just say yes. And that, I mean, if you can do that and sustain that for a while, you might have a chance of being an entrepreneur, because that is essentially what an entrepreneurial lifestyle is. Jerry, I got, kids' baseball game. Well, again, that's important, 100%. But feeding them kids is a little bit more important, and they'll remember the meal more than they'll remember the baseball game.
Yeah.
Well, the kids' stuff isn't important. It absolutely is. But I'm saying, if you don't have enough to do one, you better be working.
The bar is so much lower than when we were younger working, because I remember I'd be afraid of losing my job for calling in. And I remember when the boys were starting, their work careers, in their teenage years, I remember telling them, you do 2 things and you'll be better off, you'll be higher up than 75, 80% of the people that work at that place. Show up when you're scheduled to work and show up on time. Like the most basic, rudimentary, fundamental things you have to do that take no effort, because it's scheduled when you're supposed to be there and what time you're supposed to show up. No skill required at all. And the minimal amount of discipline. If you do those 2 things, it's sad to say, you start off 75% better than everybody else you work with. And you can show up, you can do an average job. But if you're there and you're dependable, and they can count on you, then you're going to be one of their rock stars.
Yeah.
It's true. Yep.
What based off of that, Jerry, I have a question for you. If someone is working a 9 to 5 and they do have that entrepreneurial bug and they are building something, where is that turning point of leaving that 9 to 5? And the reason I say that, and I'll let you answer it, is there's a lot of social media hype around the villainizing the 9 to 5 and trying to leave it in order for you to fulfill your desires and dreams of like building your own business or having your own brand or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of posts that I see from social media people that are just like, I'm finally leaving my 9 to 5 and here's it. And they're recording it as like, it's like almost a stamp of honor as they walk away from that. Like it could be a 2 weeks notice or whatever, but they're just like, hey, I'm done. I'm going out on my own. Is there ever a point for that?
I'd love to come back on average and see those people that go, I'm going out on my own, I'm left the 9 to 5. Something tells me in the not too distant future, on average, those people stop making videos. And if they're checked back in a year or two later, they're back at the 9 to 5. That would be my guess. And again, the averages hold that up, right? Because the average business just doesn't make it very long. But here's what people need to understand. I'm going to guess that maybe 10% of the population even has an inkling to become an entrepreneur. So that means that 90% of the population needs to stay in the 9 to 5. They don't have it in them to be an entrepreneur. They might have it in them to be a number 2, a really strong number 2. But the difference between number 2 and number 1 is a vast, vast difference. You might be a number 3 or a number 4, right? I mean, you could be an executive, but you're not going to have that top spot because you're just not made for it. And that's probably 10% of the people have the intestinal fortitude needed to do that work. And you need a certain background too, for the most part, meaning that people, it's been my experience, who are self-made for a reason because they come from nothing on their way to doing something. So they're driven that way. The other thing to add to that is that of the 10%, maybe 3%, 4%, so maybe 40% of that number can actually do it. So 10% have an idea to do it. I'm going to cut that down by 2/3 and say maybe a third could actually pull it off. Because once you get into it, you realize that even though you were following my program on the job and you're doing all these extra side gigs and all that, and you're going to stop and you're going to go do your thing full time, you're going to get smacked in the face real quickly. Like Mike Tyson says, and I repeat this all of the time, everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the face. And then how do you roll over when the punch in the face comes, and how do you get back up and deal with it? Because that's when it really gets difficult. So I think, again, we know the numbers kind of bear that out. There's 32 million small businesses in the United States. Something along the lines of about 29 million of them are solopreneurs. A very small percentage of them have more than 100 employees. So the solo people out on their own trying to make a living, the numbers are huge relative to, there's 30 million of them, but they don't have employees. They don't have any of those headaches. They kind of just go along, make money, kind of dive back and forth between a 9 to 5 job and maybe doing a side hustle, and they call that self, an entrepreneur. But those guys that jump and go hard, it's very, very difficult to do. And remember, as a solopreneur, it can be very difficult to get rich. You can make a living. You could probably make a better living than you do as a 9 to 5, but you're not going to get rich necessarily as a solopreneur because you need employees making you money. So without employees, you're not going to get the kind of rich that you see on the internet. You need employees to make money. And to do that, now you're back to the program I described. Now you're back to what you went through working with me, Matt, but I was 15 years in, right? And that didn't even compare, to Steve's point, to when I started. So if you've got the moxie to do that, which is a small percentage of people, go for it. So then the question is, how do you know if you are? And it's just, how bad do you want it? I mean, how bad are you willing to go out and burn the boats and risk it all and go for it? You're going to do better, I think, if you burn the boats, quit the job and go do it. But I would never recommend that if you have a work ethic, because the reality is you got to go like I did and referee basketball games for 10 years while you're running in my case, it was multiple multi-million dollar businesses. So you either can work or you can't. And that's what it comes down to. If you're all about self-help, and I need, to Steve's point, 60% home and 40% and all of that stuff that gets floated around all the time, and you need me time and my time, I love all that stuff, because guys like me are out here looking for it. So meanwhile, you go home and spend the time sitting in the corner, sucking your thumb, feeling bad about yourself because you just put in a 10-hour day. I'm on hour number 18, working with you, Maddie, at 11 o'clock at night, figuring out what's our next step, putting this company together. And I'm happy to snag that customer all day long. And then you wonder why you can't make a living going home after 10 hours.
Well, to your point, just keep following what we're doing right now. This is the perfect example of that. We're here doing this. Yeah, we're building this, but we all have stuff we're doing all day. It's not this.
Right.
And this is what we're building out right now. And this is what you don't see. I mean, the problem with the interweb is that you see the success story, because most people aren't interested in what it was started out with 3 people. They're not interested in when nobody shows up to your first thing, because it's not glamorous.
Right.
Who's going to buy into that program? Hey, this is awesome. What it looks like day one. And that's what doesn't sell. But if you really want to know what it's like, keep following, keep watching, because you'll see from day one how this thing is really built out. This is the perfect example of what we're talking about. Outside of what we already do, that we're already successful in, we already do well. But to build something new when you step away, even though you're in business, Jerry, already, and 30 some years experience in it. So they do get that. But actually, what does it look like to build it? Just keep watching. You'll see.
And that's exactly right. And the fact that we're sitting here again and nobody showed up at our first workshop was absolutely fantastic. And here's the thing about you guys looking for success, either in the job you're doing, to people out there, the job you're doing, or you want to become an entrepreneur. Here's something that you have to consider. I think I work hard. Matt works hard. Steve works hard. We went into this and we have an idea of what we're doing, but we have no idea what we're doing. We have no experience, so we're taking what we've learned and we're trying to put it into practice. And so we're having the workshop, and no matter what we did, nobody showed up at the workshop. Now we're trying to do it without paid ads. Maybe somebody would have come in that case, but we're learning. I thought I was dedicated and working hard and putting in the effort, putting in the time, watching the videos, trying to learn, practicing prior to that workshop. And then nobody shows up at the workshop. Now I'm like, this is BS. I'm pissed. Well, why wasn't I pissed before the workshop? Right? Because I had to get kicked in the balls by nobody showing up. And so now this time, we did the workshop that night, and my performance on that workshop was 1,000 times better than performance on the last workshop, right? Because I was really like, I'm just nailing this, because this is not how this is going to go. So my point being is, it's all about a mind game, and you think you're working hard now. This is my point. Wait till you burn the ship. Now you're really hard. What do you think I was working hard before trying to get this thing together? Then nobody shows up at that workshop, and I'm pissed. And I'm like, okay, what's step number 2? I gotta take this up to another level. I may have to take it to a 5. I don't even know what a 5 looks like, right? Because I can't comprehend a 5. Because if I get kicked in the balls again on the 7th of October at 7 o'clock Central, and we try to do this again, right? And nobody shows up, I'm like, okay, the last 6 weeks didn't work. What am I doing wrong? Clearly, I just need to go to step number 3. Step number 3 is unimaginable to me at step number 1. But I don't know. I just can't go from 1 to 3. I have to torture myself for 2 months in between.
3 years from now, people are like, well, so what was it like, trying to start it? I'll go back to September 11th, 2025. You'll see.
Right.
And that's the thing about it with that, because I follow a lot of it. I look at a lot of it, get ideas and perspectives. But nobody has those, because it's not glamorous. To your point, being an entrepreneur, especially starting out, is not glamorous. It's not everything, that the social media that puts out there that glamorizes it. what they do is they say, hey, start this, but they show you the end result.
Right.
It's like the person that sells the fitness pill, and he's a GQ model that cover,
he's got all the abs.
He's holding up the pill, saying, hey, and like, oh, wait a minute, from that pill to what you are on that picture, there's a lot of not shown that it takes to do it. And I think that's the way a lot of entrepreneurship's presented today.
I was going to say, we're going to get a lot of people listening to this podcast when we're talking about it just sucks. You got to forget everything. You got to dive in. You're in the deep end. You don't know how to swim. You can't even remember how to breathe. You haven't seen the outside of a building in 6 weeks. Yeah, this is what we're trying to get for you, folks.
Well, yeah, to that point, I think there's the entrepreneurship is glamorized. And to your point earlier, Jerry, not everyone should be an entrepreneur.
No, most
just like in any industry, like I shouldn't be a doctor because I don't think like a doctor should. I haven't gone through all the schooling, the understanding, and the mentality that it takes or want or desire to be a doctor.
Right.
So entrepreneurship should be treated as the same. But for the longest time, it's been, this is your hack to build your own life, to create your own freedom. But the problem is there is no freedom. The freedom is within your own head of what you make it be. Yeah. There's not hey, if I pursue entrepreneurship, I'm going to be free. No, if anything, you just bound yourself more than you did when you were in the corporate job.
That's right. But it's your bounds. And when you're in the corporate job, you're still shackled. Mm-hmm. When you are an entrepreneur, you just have shackled yourself. And the other thing too is it's about the hardest thing you'll ever do. So if you can succeed at the hardest thing you'll ever do, how much better is that than working for somebody else 9 to 5? It's significantly so. And so if it were easy, like what we're trying to do, building the peer-to-peer group, if it was easy, and we keep saying this, everybody would do it, but it's not easy. But when you can succeed, it's like, Jerry, why in the hell would I want to be an entrepreneur? Because it's the greatest thing you will ever do, bar none. Short of having kids, but let's say outside of the house, it is the greatest thing that you'll ever do. Because if you can do it successfully, the first time you make that first dollar, not revenue, that's a big deal. First sale you ever make, that's fantastic. And we're going to jump up and down as soon as we get somebody to sign on and starts coming into our group. But the first time you make money, you'll be hooked. You'll go, oh my God. And it's like losing weight. I say all the time, if you could live as somebody who used to weigh 100 pounds more and didn't have anywhere near the muscle I do now, if you're 350 pounds, if you can move into my head for 2 minutes and have my thoughts and understand how I feel and appreciate how I used to feel and how sick and dying I was, you'd be like, and all you had to do was go to the gym every day, go walk 4 miles every day and eat 1,800 calories of fat and protein. That's all, and drink a gallon of water. That's all I have to do to get what I just experienced for 2 minutes. And I'd say, yeah, it seems like a small price to pay. The same's true for an entrepreneur. As soon as you make money, it's a small price to pay because all the work, all the heartache, all the pain, all the stuff that you went through, then you're successful. And you're like, that the success is so much more valuable when you've had to go through hell to get it. Being healthy and having muscle and feeling good about yourself, particularly at my age, is so much better because I had to earn it. But you get up here and it overwhelms anything relative to the cost. So that's why you do it, because it's the hardest thing in the world to do.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's very tough in the upfront and it doesn't get easier as you go.
Yes.
And a lot of people think the opposite, like, oh, once I have it, like you said, once I have that first sale, once I have that, then it's not going to be the smoothest ride, but it's going to be a lot smoother. Mm-hmm. And to your point, it actually gets bumpier. It actually gets crazier. Like right now you're driving on a 1-lane dirt road and you're like, oh, this sucks. Oh, this is brutal. I don't know if I can go for much longer. And then you open up and there's a 2-lane highway and you're like, oh, this is nice. And you're starting to cruise. And then that 2-lane highway merges to a 6-lane interstate. And you're like, holy shit, right. What is going on?
One compared to the other.
And it's just those incremental steps that we think it's getting easier when in reality, like you said, there's more obstacles. There's more things coming in. The more money you make doesn't make your problems just go away and minimize. If anything,
No.
it creates more.
No,
And so
money makes money makes issues. Money makes problems for sure. But again, you have a little bit better life. I would love to have the life where I had so few issues, like back when I couldn't pay my electric bill, but have all of the money. But unfortunately, you don't get to have that life because it's not Instagram. So, yeah,
exactly.
All right, I got to go eat meat plate.
Okay. You say it like a Neanderthal. What is this meat plate? What is this?
Dude, Steve, talk about meat plate.
Meat plate is exactly what it is. It's a plate of meat. It's got chicken. It's got steak. It's all kind of fajita cooked without the vegetables. It's got
chorizo.
Steak. It's got chorizo. It's got chicken. It's got those pork spare ribs on top. It's got shrimp in it.
It's so good.
It is just a big pile of meat.
Of carnitas. It weighs about a pound. Maybe better than that. It's at the Mexican place restaurant. It comes on a fajita platter. Yeah, there's no vegetables. It's just this giant plate of healthy goodness. Chorizo, Mexican sausage.
Where is this place at?
I don't remember the name of it.
Okay, we'll need to link it in the description of this podcast because if they're listening and would want to sponsor one of our events in the future, by all means, that sounds amazing.
I like the way your mind's working.
Yeah.
I like the way your mind's working.
Hey, we'll give you some publicity if you just give us some food. That's all we're asking for.
As a practicing meat eater, it's the greatest thing in the world. So
kind of like an Oprah thing. Meat plates for everybody. You get a meat plate. You get a meat plate.
Matt, when your brothers were here, we were talking business with them, Steve and I, and the two of them. As a reward for my advice, they bought us dinner, Kathy and I and Kira. So off we went to meat plate, and they got the same meat plate. And you'll appreciate that they were giving up on their meat plate because it's a pound and a half of food. It's gigantic. And I saw them kind of ask for to-go boxes, and I was like, okay, boys. I mean, yeah, y'all can get to-go boxes if you want. Talk about competition. Next thing I know, and Jake was the last one eating whole meat sweats.
He's just bent over, barely.
Oh, dude, and your
mom
was all over him about, don't do it. You don't have to eat it, because he was hurting. But he's like, I'm not listening to it for the next 6 years. I'm not doing it.
No, I would rather literally overeat, look you in the face, hold the plate up, be empty, walk out of the restaurant and throw up.
Yeah.
I'd be okay. I'd be like, hey.
It's cheaper than what you would have to do if you gave it up and got it to go.
Yep.
Far cheaper.
So we literally did meat plate for everybody, and they loved it. It's fantastic. So, all right, another good one. How do we? How are we walking out of this thing? Do we need to have something?
So we're so new that we're still figuring it out. We do not have an intro or outro, but I am working on an outro, and then once we get it into the new software and for the podcast recording, it will be golden. So
here we go. I'll give you one. Thanks everybody for listening to our second The Kronos Group podcast, the TKG podcast. We appreciate everybody listening. Remember, go like, subscribe, wherever you're listening to us. Go to the kronosgroup.org website. On that, you can see everything going on at the Kronos Group, in particular, our peer-to-peer group. This was invaluable for me when I started my business. And again, we did hundreds of millions of dollars. And that group was a very important part of it happening for me, as it will be for you. Hit the button, join the community. Get our email every week. You can see what we're up to. But most importantly, if you want to have a conversation with Steve-O right there and talk to him or talk to me about what these groups are going to look like as we put that first one together, simple. And it costs you nothing. You're just having a conversation with us. How bad can that be? So go do that right now. We appreciate everybody watching. Matt will put this down because this was really good right off the top of my head. So this is this is absolute podcast magic, if I do say so myself. Thank you. And we will see you on the next podcast, which will be every week like clockwork, because that's the kind of guys we are.